I'm so excited to introduce my guest today, Mary John Frank, who is a director, choreographer, and filmmaker. She has directed content for New York City Ballet, Condé Nast, Google, Disney, and has created music videos, web content, fashion shorts, and immersive theater experiences as well. Some of her recent projects have screened at venues like Lincoln Center and the Hammer Museum, and her work has also been featured in the New York Times, Vogue.com, Nowness, and Refinery 29. Hi, MJ. I'm so excited to see you.
Yay! Thank you, Kelsey, for having me.
How long have you been in New York?
I've been in New York total for 16 years.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was that long. Oh,
yeah, I moved here for college a long time ago.
Thank you.
Went to school here, worked for a year or two here, and then moved to Los Angeles, worked in LA for 6 years in the film industry.
Okay.
Came back and have been back for about 10 years.
Amazing. And what made you want to move to New York?
Well, I got into college here. I think always as a young person, I was a dancer, I was a mover, I was a performer. And I really wanted to dance. And at the time I wanted to be on Broadway. And then I got to New York and I was at NYU and I was doing all different types of dance and realized there were many, that there were different opportunities in dance. And I was always really interested in the choreography piece. I don't think I was confident enough to be like, I'm going to be a choreographer at 19.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit of time, but that's initially why I moved to New York.
Whenever I think about you or I'm doing projects with you, I always think about you as a multi-hyphenate artist because you do filmmaking and choreography and directing and all these different things. What were some of your first jobs when you first moved to New York in the art world?
In college, I was interning at 2020 in Primetime, which was not a dance job, actually. So Those were news magazine shows. And even though I was dancing, I was doing a lot of work like kind of logging footage so that I was exposed to post-production. And my first job out of college was actually in film, and I started as an assistant. And then from there, got an assistant gig in Los Angeles, so I moved out there. And I was working at film studios like Lionsgate and then eventually Paramount. And from there, I got promoted at Paramount. I was a director of acquisitions. And so my job was going to film festivals, watching movies, and trying to find interesting films for this one particular division at the studio.
Oh, wow.
And then from there, I went to Warner Brothers and worked in production development. And so I worked with writers and directors and we'd get scripts or stories that they wanted to tell ready, and we'd go and pitch them to the studio, and the studio would decide if they wanted to make the movie or not. So those were like my money jobs. And then I was dancing during that time, choreographing, teaching. And after about 7 years of living this double life of dancing on the weekends and then doing studio executive work during the day, I got the courage to really go for choreography and dance full time.
It sounds like you've had a lot of jobs in the film industry as well as dancing. How did you start your freelance choreography career?
So I moved back to New York from Los Angeles, and I moved back to attend an MFA program at Tisch, which I don't think is there anymore. It's in Tisch Dance. I already had a day job in film. If you go back to grad school and you're 30, 31, you're like, okay, this is like my profession. How am I going to break into this industry?
Yeah.
And so I just really took that time to, build my portfolio. And I worked with a lot of Tisch dancers and created dance films and started applying to dance film festivals and just started going out, literally, I was sending my reel to agents. I was building my reel. I was just saying yes to anything and everything while also being very mindful of what my skill set was and what my strengths were. And so I can show you a little bit of my work if that's cool. Yeah, so this was a spot for Disney. It ended up living on the web, and I choreographed this. I'm just showing little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I've gotten to direct work for New York City Ballet. These are some of their promo videos, which were actually my first directing gigs right out of grad school. That was some work that you just saw that I did with Condé Nast. This was a music video I did for Butterscotch. And then more recently, as you know, my work has evolved into this sort of PSA political content with organizations like the Center for Health and Gender Equity, Planned Parenthood, and others. Yeah, there's multiple opportunities for choreography when you add the camera.
Yes.
Which I think is really exciting.
And you do a lot of work with virtual reality. What sort of drew you to VR?
So I laugh because it's a lot of work. I
Yeah.
don't know if I've actually made a lot of work. It's a lot of work just to get to make the work.
Yes.
But no, I have made some work in virtual reality. I'm working right now on a piece called From Sea to Rising Sea, and it's a virtual reality musical about reversing climate change.
Amazing.
And it's a combination of a narrative musical piece, but there's some synchronized swimming and some fun kind of things like that. I got into VR because I worked on an immersive theater piece, and I started thinking about what would be an interesting way to film this. Like, how do I share this with people? And so I started just doing some research and discovered 360 filmmaking. This was in like, I think 2016.
Okay.
And then I started applying for grants in that space just because I was really curious about it. And one of them worked out. And in 2017, I got to make a 360 film with Google Daydream.
Okay.
And it was an anti-bullying piece that focused on cyberbullying. And it was this dance musical about how to be an upstander versus a passive bystander when you witness bullying. It's like once you create something in a certain medium or space, you learn a ton about it. And you're like, okay, I want to do that again. I want to try this next time. There's all these things that I became very curious about.
What can you tell us about the Rising Sea Level project that you're currently working on?
It's a live action piece, which obviously just means it's not an animated piece, and it'll be about 5 to 6 minutes in length. So we want to make something that's real and accurate, but that also doesn't depress our viewers. It actually empowers them to take an action. It's been inspired by like solution oriented books that I've read and like draw down. I'm just going to say them here in case anyone wants to read them, but like We Are the Weather is a really good one. So yeah, this kind of solution-oriented mindset is really the inspiration behind it. I've been inspired by the activism I've seen towards climate here in New York and around the world. And here's some fun test footage from a shoot we got to do in January. And this is the Aqua Lilies. I don't know if you've seen them perform or seen their work, but they've been in like Hail Caesar, which is a Coen Brothers film. And
yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, they were in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which a ton of New York dancers have been in. But they're super cool, and we're figuring out how this is all going to work. You've done so many different kinds of work. I mean, you've choreographed for stage and for camera. And so, and you've been both in front of and behind the camera. So all of this. It's actually not that different than setting up for a film shoot, other than you're working with different software. And I would just say that post-production, at least in my experience, everything takes longer because you're putting it into a headset. So there's a whole thing of like looking at it on a flat screen and then putting it into the headset.
Right. Who would you say are some of your role models or artists that you're really looking up to for inspiration right
now? There's so many. Hilma af Klint, like that's a really easy one. Like I will pull out the coffee table book. I mean, I got to see the live exhibit in the Guggenheim a little over a year ago, but just looking through like the book that has all of the gorgeous colors and shapes of her paintings is something that I do just when I need to kind of give my eyes a break from Zoom or just like kind of get inspired. And I love the story, like that her vision of like all of her paintings living in a spiral temple was actually fulfilled. Like that's just so that's very cool. And then, I mean, Twyla Tharp's book, Keep It Moving, kept me going in the beginning of quarantine, just because she's so active and energetic and like so smart. And then Kyle Abraham I love, and if anyone is watching right now and you're not following Kyle Abraham, please do. And then in terms of like peer, I could go on and on, but I'll wrap it up with these last two peer dancers that I love that I'm following right now, whose posts and work I just appreciate are Malik Washington and Kayla Farish, which I feel like you probably know both of them. And I just want to give them shout outs right now.
Like, I think it's really important to look at icons and legends who have really paved the way for us to be making work, but it's also important for us to champion our colleagues that we're currently working with who are making equally as valuable work. What advice would you give to artists who are feeling like they might need a little bit more inspiration?
What do you need to do to take care of you, and what do you need to do to support other people? And voting, like really, really getting people, like, I know it doesn't sound like it's directly connected to art, but I feel like it's kind of one of those things where it's like, like polish over here, like shine over here. Like, I feel like we need to be doing this like soul work and this focusing on like how to bring, like obviously bring change and how to get someone else in the White House. And like, that's where the good stuff I think is going to come from, is like in doing all the work
right,
to not only connect with your truth, but also support others. I know that that's very broad. I like, it's not like paint, dance. I mean, I do think whatever your medium is, try to do it every day.
yeah,
Like, even if it's only dancing for 15 minutes in your kitchen, like listening to 3 of your favorite songs, like do it. Like, keep those things going.
yeah.
And if you're not able to, just like acknowledge it and don't beat yourself up.
Yeah. Well, MJ, thank you so much for joining. It's always good to see you, and I'm happy to hear that you're staying safe and healthy, and also working on creative projects. I think that's really important.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you for having me. This is such a delight.
All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.